Slum Thug of the Boss, People Politics.
Je regarde People Politics.
Good evening and welcome to all of you who made the wise decision to tune in tonight. I'm Caesar, joined by Miss Franchelle and Sir Nemesis Truth, and you're now watching People's Politics. We're the live television program that gives you, the people, a voice on social political issues, whether they be local, national, or international. All you have to do is call the number that's going to be periodically popping up at the bottom of the screen, and you too can be heard. But let's just go ahead and jump right into it. What's been new in the news?
There were elections in Iran. Woo! Democratic process.
I don't think it was something to celebrate the way that they were acting, though, right?
Okay, well, interestingly enough, there are some suspicious things going on. Miraculously, there was a vote by all these people, and immediately upon receiving the end of the voting tallies, we have a winner. It's a landslide. Ahmadinejad. Woo! Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
I don't think the spiritual leader knows either. He called for an investigation for voter fraud, I believe. That could be interesting. I don't know what's going to happen with that.
All that may have occurred, but they still have an elected official. I mean, it's not too different than our 2000 and 2004 elections here. We're not able to go and police every election. They didn't send Jimmy Carter over there for this one this time around. So,
well, they at least waited, like when they declared that George Bushy was president, they at least waited until most of the counting was done. I mean, even though we had hanging chads, et cetera, they at least counted most of them.
But once again, who are we to talk about elections? They still haven't decided the governor, I mean, not the Senate race in Minnesota.
They haven't, have they? I didn't even think
we still have some recounts to do, We'll get to it.
Oh, my goodness. What else has been new in the news?
Well, I mean, national news, of course, we have crowned new National Basketball Association champions with the Los Angeles Lakers. Yes.
Kobe Man Love.
That's not news.
Kobe Man Love.
It's news because they came through Houston and they showed you guys how to win a title.
I guess.
So,
is that right?
yes, that's very right.
That's awesome.
And they started rioting after the victory already, so it's going to help stimulate the economy as well in Los Angeles.
How are riots going to stimulate the economy?
Because it's going to be more funds for the police to come out. It's going to be, fire crews have to come out, clean up sanitation crews. Plus, they're going to have to replace all the glass and all the looted products.
So it's a win-win for everyone.
That is not a win-win.
When your team wins, the best thing for you to do is push over some cars and tear down some signs.
That's not the right thing to do, people. Please do not take her.
Some people will do that after getting out the first round, but
I guess.
I don't think so.
What else has been hot in the news? Man, it was kind of sad. Everybody heard about that shooting that happened at the Holocaust Museum.
Yes.
Man, yes, it was a 39-year-old ex-military guy. He basically got shot for opening the door for this 88-year-old white supremacist. Came in with a rifle and shot him in the chest, killed him.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. I think
God bless that family.
Yes, I think they ended up closing the museum the next day or something like that, memorial. So yes.
And they beefed up security, I believe, in Houston for our Holocaust Museum.
Yeah.
For a brief period.
We just need to keep in mind that there are still a lot of people who have unresolved issues as far as race goes. So we need to
even into their 80s.
Yeah.
Like seriously, you have been holding on to that for 80 years.
It's true.
I mean, really.
Some people just can't let it go. But one thing that was real interesting about that, well, two interesting points about him. He had previously been arrested for trying to make a citizen's arrest on the chairman of the Federal Reserve, and they actually prosecuted and sent him to jail for that.
Translation: kidnapping.
Well, I mean, you do have a right as a citizen to make a citizen's arrest if you feel a crime has been made in your presence.
That was not his crime.
I don't think he's the only person that actually has made an attempt of
kidnapping.
Yeah, because they did that with Karl Rove in San Francisco, and then the lady wound up getting arrested.
Oh,
man.
Man.
Had that clip. That was
wow.
So, but we're going to get into that and a whole bunch of other stuff here on People's Politics. But right now, we'd like to start off the show by going to a segment we like to call Forward Thinking with Frank Torrey.
What a year. If you didn't have your money in a can in the backyard, the chance are you got tapped. If you play in the stock market, you're crying about it now. The automobile industry is doing a number on you. They have a stimulus package that is out of this world. The finisher of 2008 was a 70-year-old Jewish gentleman named Bernard Madoff, who took off a string of his friends for $50 billion. Hey, that's what friends are for. There's a tune by Johnny Mercer that said, if I can't get your last red cent, you're no gent. If I can't hock your watch and chain, you're a pain. Now, for a lot of people, the year 2008 is going to be pretty much like 2009. In case you want to read the book about Madoff, you get the book at Barnes & Noble. And you can find out it's a doozy. And like the gentleman named Madoff said, he made off with a lot of people's money. I'm Frank Torrey.
Well, thank you for that. It's unfortunate he did make off with a lot of people's money, and it's not over yet. He's still under house arrest now?
Yes.
Whew, I liked his attorneys. God forbid, if I ever face with any crimes, I need his attorneys.
Call them up immediately.
50 billion and you're still on house arrest?
Why, yes.
That's amazing. But we like to welcome our guests today. Houston City Comptroller and future Mayor, hopeful Mayor.
Current mayoral hopeful.
All right.
Future hopeful mayor.
Yes, there we go. We are welcome to it, Ms. Denise Parker. How are you today?
Just great.
Well,
Glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us.
Glad to have you.
Here on People's Politics, it's all about the people in politics. So we're going to start off with the most obvious question. Why should the people at home watching the show vote for you?
I'm the most qualified candidate in the race. I'm the most experienced candidate in the race. In these troubled economic times, we need someone who understands the workings of the city budget, is able to manage the city through this recession and out to a brighter future on the other side without cutting services and programs that we care about.
Okay. Now, when you say you have experience, for the people who aren't at home, who is not as familiar with you as people who follow politics, what is some of your political experience?
I have been the city controller for 6 years now. I was a 6-year member of the Houston City Council, serving at large. Spent 20 years working in the oil and gas industry, 10 years as a small business owner. I've been a civic club president, a CDC president, an active community volunteer.
Oh, that's a lot.
I'm also a native Houstonian and a graduate of Rice University here in Houston.
Okay. Whoa.
Well, obviously, okay, being city controller, you had to manage, what, billions worth of money?
City has a budget, overall budget of $4 billion annually.
$4 billion. Now, what are you going to do if you become mayor to keep our economy going strong here in Houston?
Well, the primary job of the mayor is to manage the city's budget and the city's expenditures. But in the long term, there are a few things that the mayor can do to build the local economy. We have to actively recruit companies to relocate here. I'm a firm believer in Houston as an international city. We need to make sure that we are the international destination for people who want to do business with the United States. We're also an oil and gas city. We have to be the international energy city in the future. We're beginning to be a place where wind energy is headquartered. We also have to be a place where solar and biofuel companies come. So, you know, the traditional oil and gas is the clean, green, renewable energy in the future.
Now, we just had Peter Brown here last week. And when he came on, he told us that he had the most experience and he, you know, is from here, he's done all this work here, et cetera, et cetera. What exactly makes you stand out from him and the other people that are running for mayor?
I think we all care about Houston. I love this city. I have been excited to work for this city for these last 12 years. And Mr. Brown is certainly a couple of decades older than I am and has a range of experiences, but no one else could run for this position that has as much experience within city government. And no one else could run for this position, or no one else is running for this position right now with the depth of knowledge that I have of the city budget, where the stress points are, how we continue to fund things in the city of Houston in the face of a declining economy. I mean, that's been my job for 6 years, is to manage the city's economic side.
Well, since we're speaking about funding, you will be the person who's, so to speak, in charge of the purse strings for the city. How do you feel about receiving additional stimulus money from the federal government to help out with the Houston economy?
Anything we can possibly get would be great. We're a donor city and a donor state. By that I mean we send more money to Washington than we ever get back. So anything that we can do to bring more money down here, to keep it in the Houston economy, to generate more jobs. And in fact, on my campaign website, AniceParker.com, I actually have a policy page that is called Hire Houston First. If we are going to spend these stimulus dollars, we need to spend it with Houston companies that hire Houston people, companies that are based here or are willing to hire people from here in order to do the work. What good does it do us to take these stimulus dollars and send it back to Chicago or Atlanta or some other city?
Mm-hmm.
I definitely would agree with that frame of logic. When you say hiring Houstonians first, now are you referring to, how do you say, the undocumented workers in the area?
I'm actually referring to the greater Houston area when I say hire Houston first. We want to keep money in the local economy, because anything, you know, whether you live in Sugar Land or Houston or Missouri City or Bel Air, all the money flows back and forth here. And it's about the people who are resident in this area and the companies that want to locate here.
Wow, okay.
Well, I know, me personally, one of my chief concerns is keeping my community safe. I hear alarms going off and stuff like that. I hear about people getting shot all the time. I want to know, what are you going to do? What policies are you going to implement to keep Houston safe or make the city even safer?
Well, first, I believe we have to have the best paid, the best trained, the best equipped police force in the state, and we're well on our way to that. But the police are at the end of the anti-crime effort. Stopping crime starts with us. We have to become more involved in our communities. We have to become good neighbors and good citizens. We have to be willing to be part of neighborhood watch programs. We have to be willing, when we see a problem, to call the police. We have to become engaged and in the global village here in Houston. We are actively trying to recruit more police officers. We desperately need more police officers. We were actually, until recently, paying a $12,000 signing bonus if you make it through the police academy for incoming police officers, first-time police officers. $12,000. Couldn't fill our cadet classes. Now that the economy is in recession, and now that troops are beginning to come back from overseas, we're going to be able to find new police officers, and we really need to put more police officers on the street.
Speaking of the police force, I've noticed there is an abundance or excessive use of our new tasers that we have, which is really nice that they're not using actual bullets, which I hear is the alternative. But is there a way that we can, I don't know, curtail that? Or I know that there is special training now for individuals who have involvement with the police who have mental issues. But as far as just the regular person being pulled over or whatever by the police, is there a way for us to bring down this heavy use of tasers?
Well, first, there are a number of police agencies here in the greater Houston area, and the majority of taser incidents have actually not been with Houston police officers. They've been with other policing agencies. However, as city controller, I did a major performance audit of taser use by our Houston Police Department. That audit is available if you go to the Houston Controller's website, and it's prominently featured. You can read the entire audit. It has some interesting implications. I think tasers are a good tool for law enforcement. They're an important tool. The problem is that we expect tasers to be used instead of deadly force, instead of a gun. That's not what tasers are for. Tasers are part of the continuum of tools that officers can use to take control of the situation. If an officer is in a situation where deadly force is justified, they are expected to use deadly force. Taser is used instead of a tactical baton or instead of an officer putting his or her hands on you to get compliance. And as long as we have this disconnect between what the citizens think a taser should be used for and what an officer thinks a taser should be used for, we're going to have problems. And we need to have more dialogue about this. In fact, I had rolled out my taser audit last year, and we were beginning to do a series of town hall meetings about it just before Hurricane Ike roared through, and it kind of got put on the shelf. But the information's there, and I would really encourage people to go to the controller's website and find this information. Read it for yourself.
Okay. Well, since you brought up Hurricane Ike, and we're now back into hurricane season, what, as mayor, do you think you would have done differently in the event of a catastrophe such as Ike occurring, where you have, hundreds of thousands of people without power, without water, and you actually have your city, everything is on pause? What do you think you would have done differently, or I guess the same as Mayor White did, to help the city with that situation?
Every hurricane is different, and the situation after every hurricane is different. You may have a hurricane with a lot of flooding, you may have a hurricane with a lot of wind, you may have rain, you may have tornadoes. So you have to be prepared for all of them. I actually think we did an excellent job in responding to the hurricane. Much of the issue with power was beyond our control. The most important thing, though, is to let people know exactly what they need to do up front. Remember Rita. We gave a mixed message in Rita, which was, if you think you're in an area prone to flooding, evacuate. Well, we live in Houston. We all think we're in an area prone to flooding. So,
It seems that way.
so this time we was very specific. If you live in these neighborhoods, in these zip codes, leave. You're in the storm surge zone. If you're in the rest of Houston, stay put. So we didn't have the problems on the freeways. We didn't have the massive traffic jams. We learned. So it's about clearly communicating, coordinating with the other government entities here, working with the media to make sure that message gets out. Now, one of the things we learned from this, though, is that we had never modeled a scenario where there was a complete loss of power, total grid failure. We do a lot of modeling. We practice for hurricanes. We didn't model that.
Because I went 2 weeks without power.
Yeah. But that's our responsibility, is to make sure that we have power at the water treatment plants and the sewage treatment plants, and that all of the city facilities come back up. We had a problem there, and we learned, and that is we now have to strategically place generators in more places at the city so that we can't put a generator at every lift station or every water treatment station, but we can have them available to quickly get them out so that once we go into reserve power, we don't lose or depressurize our water and sewer system. And that was the biggest problem that we had as a city of Houston and city response. Long term, even if we have a major windstorm, another hurricane this year, God forbid, at least because of the loss of so much vegetation, we're probably not going to have the power loss problems that we had. I know some of my opponents, or at least one of my opponents, talks about we're going to put everything underground. Millions and millions and millions of dollars that would go directly to the ratepayers if we tried to do that. New construction is put underground, but to go back and retrofit the older inner city parts of Houston, actually hundreds of millions of dollars directly charged back to the ratepayers. I just can't see us doing that.
Couldn't see it either.
Well, if you want to make a profit, I can see it being done. Outside of that, then really.
Wow.
A profit for the electric company.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
But
Now, as far as the Houston infrastructure is concerned, I know that I call it overdevelopment. We can call it whatever else it may be, but I noticed that even without a major hurricane, or really all we need is day or two of rain and we have massive flooding. What would you do as mayor to remedy that or make it at least a little dent in there? Because our flooding issues are just beyond me.
Well, two answers to that. One, I have another policy paper up on my website, AniceParker.com, about infrastructure and drainage. Drainage is a huge piece of my campaign for mayor. It is not okay to have water in your house. It is absolutely not okay to have water in your house. And I lay out how we need to go about changing the way we do our CIP, which is our capital projects, in order to put more emphasis on drainage. We need to go watershed by watershed, do an analysis, get a list of projects, and just start knocking those projects off. But the other piece of that, and that everybody who moves to Houston needs to know this, and I want your viewers to know this, the streets are part of our flood control system. The streets are designed to flood. We don't want water in your house. We never want water in your house. But the streets are part of the flood control system.
I did not know that.
They're designed to hold. Drainage in Houston is like trying to drain a pool table. So imagine you're trying to drain a pool table into the corner pocket. There's no terrain.
Right.
It has to gradually flow that way. Well, while we're waiting for it to gradually flow, the water's got to go someplace. The streets are actually designed to collect water curb to curb. So when you're driving, now they're not designed to take your whole car. When that happens, that's a problem, and that's the kind of thing we need to tackle.
That I'm focused on.
The unfortunate gentleman that whose car was sucked in the drainage system and died, that was actually on the freeway. It was the Katy Freeway, and that's actually not anything that we had control over, but it's unfortunate and inappropriate. And there are way too many underpasses that we lose cars in. But again, new Houstonians, when you see that gauge on the side of the underpass and it has 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot, and so forth, that's a water level. Don't go. I mean, and it's just, it is designed to, the streets are designed to hold water, but we could do a great deal better job of keeping people from driving into those flooded intersections. I fault the police department for, in this last heavy rain in April, as soon as we see that really heavy rain and the streets start to fill up, we know the intersections that flood. They're the ones we put flood gauges on. Put a patrol car in front of every one of them. Stop the people from driving in.
That would make a
Low tech, low dollar, just common sense.
We need more police officers for that.
Makes sense.
But some people would say common sense
Common
ain't all
sense.
that common.
Common sense is good in the daytime.
Some people say that. It's true.
Common sense is good in the daytime. At night, I think that was where one of the problems was, because you can't see, one,
The water.
the water.
Which is why
and
we
then-
have those flood gauges, and people just have to be aware of them. If you're, people who come here from, East Texas West Texas and out in the desert areas they're familiar with those because they have a lot of flash floods. And unfortunately, and I've lost a vehicle in Houston flooding. I mean, if you don't get off the streets fast enough when the water starts filling up, you can easily lose a car, but we don't want to lose a life.
That's what's important, trying to save as many lives as possible. And speaking of saving as many lives as possible, today we heard President Barack Obama announce his health care plan. Do you feel like that is something that will be beneficial to Houston, being that we have such a large medical center and there's so many people here who actually are based in the medical industry?
Well, yes and no. We have the largest medical complex in the world, but 40% of Houstonians don't have health care. So there is a disconnect there that we have to do something about. I'm not familiar with the details of the president's plan, but this is a system that is broken and a system of haves and have-nots, and we have to do something about it. To have so many people without health insurance or health coverage here in the greater Houston area with the greatest medical complex in the world is inappropriate, and we have to tackle it. But it is something that's going to have to come from the federal government. We can't solve it all here. Now, the city actually has been trying to do our part. We have a program called Pay or Play, in that if you are going to do business with the city of Houston, you're a vendor and you have a contract worth more than $100,000, we expect you to provide health insurance for your employees.
Okay. I'm sure a lot of people didn't know about that, so they learned something new today. That's why we always encourage you to watch People's Politics. But in addition to that, when these people get health insurance, because let's say look at the 40% who don't have health insurance, the unemployment rate in the city is not as high as it is nationally, but it's still rather high as far as
It's going up.
as far as everything is concerned. How so is gas prices, and I guess the inflation rate is going up. How do you see Houston's economy over the next, I say, 2 to 3 years? Do you feel that it's going to improve, or do you feel that it's actually going to go down?
It's really tied to the oil and gas price. We are still 50% dependent on the energy industry. The big three in Houston are the energy industry, or oil and gas basically, the medical center, and the Port of Houston. Those three are based in the international economy, much more so than in the U.S. economy. And we were fine here until those foreign markets began to freeze up last year and the oil price plummeted. If the oil price, which is it's about up around 70 now, if it stays there for a while, we will begin to pull out of the recession.
Okay.
But that's what kept us insulated from what went on in the rest of the country. And we didn't have a housing bubble here, so we didn't have a housing collapse. And until last year, we were creating more jobs in Houston than any other region in America. So we had a lot of residual momentum built up in our economy.
So when you say that, a lot of people, like you said, are between the difference between Hurricane Rita and Hurricane Ike. There was a lot more jobs that seemingly created after Hurricane Rita than Ike. And what is the difference? Why is that? I understand you said that each hurricane is different, but being that the more people were affected by Ike here in Houston, how come there was not more of an effort to create more jobs and as far as better housing for the people locally that were affected by the storm?
Well, first of all, after Rita, that was job creation that was already going on because of the economy here. Rita didn't really do damage to the city of Houston. We just
Correct.
we
We
just
just
kept
took
going.
everybody in.
And one of the things that caused me to think of the Hire Houston First program was in the wake of Ike, we spent something like $100 million picking up storm debris. We had contracts in place to pick up that debris. I mean, we thought ahead. We were ready to go, and there were crews out there immediately, but they weren't hiring local people. They were bringing people in from around the country, and they had the equipment stationed around the country, but they really needed to be picking up crews here because there were people who needed the work. And heck, they didn't have anything else to do. They didn't have any power. They couldn't watch TV. They couldn't go to work. But that's a joke. But it was a frustration. A lot of people complained about that, and that got me thinking about how we need to, if we're going to spend massive amounts of money like that, we need to try to keep it here in the Houston area.
How did you feel about that line or chain of command that was going from city to state to federal government? Like, was that running as smooth as it should have?
Oh, it never runs as smoothly as it should have. But I mean, overall, FEMA did well by us here. I mean, it's a massive bureaucracy, and you know, there were a few times where the mayor had a few choice words with FEMA employees down here because we had desperate people and they needed services. But the reimbursement money has been coming down at a reasonable rate. You know, again, the problem is that there were a series of hurricanes. You know, we had Gustav the week before Ike coming in to Texas, and they have to deploy resources up and down the coast to take care of those. We in Houston were, even with 2 weeks without power, we're really lucky. If you look at what happened on the Bolivar Peninsula, if you look at what happened to Bridge City, and those communities that are right on the coast, they were devastated. They're never going to recover. They're never going to be like they were. Now, an interesting tidbit, and your viewers may be interested in this. One of my jobs is to track the economy in Houston. We've been predicting that the sales tax revenue from Houston was going to go down over time, and it hasn't. The latest sales tax reports, Houston's up, Beaumont's up, Corpus Christi's up, Austin's down, San Antonio's down, Dallas is down, Lubbock, all the other areas are down. Why do you think that is? We're still spending hurricane money. We're spending insurance money down here. That's kept our economy going longer than the national economy too. Very interesting.
Now here's a question, not necessarily related to what we've been speaking about, but now that you are running for mayor, which is going to be a more public or more in the public eye type of position, do you anticipate a higher focus on your personal life? I ask because good old Sarah Palin has been on television recently because, of course, David Letterman, others have been speaking about her and her family. And I know most men don't really get that. So do you anticipate maybe some attacks or more focus on you based upon the fact that you are a female and your family?
I absolutely do not. This is, Houston is a much different city. The national politics is so brutal and so ugly. We're nonpartisan. We're focused on providing services to the city of Houston. And I expect all of us, actually the three front-running candidates, we're all moderate Democrats. We have a similar outlook on I think on the world, and families are off limits. And I have actually a 14-year-old and an 18-year-old and a 32-year-old, and the 14-year-old already complains that she can't go anywhere without somebody recognizing and coming back to mom. So they deserve a break. And it's never easy to be the child of a very visible politician.
Yeah,
Kids should be off limits. I don't think David Letterman's. I actually saw the whole piece, and I think they're making it was a vulgar, inappropriate joke, but he wasn't talking about a 14-year-old, and they're doing some partisan gamesmanship in there. Not going to happen in Houston.
Wonderful. One thing we hope doesn't happen in Houston or in Texas is the Governor Rick Perry talking about this succession. What is your opinion about that?
No, we are not going to secede from the rest of the Texas. Actually, we don't have the ability to secede. He's wrong about that. We have the ability to break up into 5 separate states. Why would we want to do that? We're the big kahuna down here. We want to keep it that way. That's partisan politics, and he's playing to a certain audience. It's just silliness.
Okay. Well, it looks like we have a call. Let's see what the people have to say. People's politics. What do the people have to say? Are you with us? Hello?
I'm here. How are you?
We're fine. How are you?
I'm blessed. It's wonderful to see you guys doing some positive things.
Well, thank you. And your question?
My question is, I was involved with the hurricane that we had in Houston.
Okay.
And I'd like to know, what is the plan, if they have a plan, if that should happen again? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay. As far as what avenue? I mean, what aspect? As far as preparation, evacuation, cleanup?
Well, basically about evacuation, because that was the most serious part about the hurricane. A lot of people did not know where to go, how to find their relatives, where to get gas, just, things of an emergency matter. And if it's nighttime, how do we get in touch with someone if it happens at night? And I'll, listen in.
Well, thank you. Thank you, caller.
Again, each hurricane is different, and since this was a hurricane where we really asked most of Houston not to evacuate, we didn't see the problems that we had seen before. But the key is that this is hurricane season now. We're there. Before there's a hurricane out in the Gulf, everybody needs to have the evacuation plan. Everybody needs to know where they're going to go, if they get separated from each other, where they're going to link up. We can't do that for you. There's too many people. What our responsibility is is to say very clearly, this is what's coming. You in this neighborhood, and this neighborhood, and this neighborhood have to leave, and you need to leave by this time. You in these other neighborhoods, please stay put. You're not going to be in the storm surge. The old rule of thumb is that you run from a flood and you hide from the wind. And that's what we asked people to do when Ike came, and by and large, they did. Afterwards, it's our responsibility to get up as many pods and emergency sites. If there are, again, fortunately, we had damage to Houston homes, but it not devastating damage. That was more in the outlying communities. So our responsibility is to make sure that, as needed, that you have shelters, that we're opening schools, that we're opening hospitals, that we're opening public facilities so people have a place to go, and they're pre-positioned with food, with water, with cots and all of that. And we're gonna do that, and then that we communicate effectively with the county and the state. Immediately after the storm, as soon as the winds died down to a manageable level, we had work crews going around the city. The first people out, it wasn't police and fire, really, it was public works crews, solid waste crews, moving the stuff out of the road so that the police and fire could get out to people and provide the emergency services. And we have a plan in place for that. The key, have your own plan, listen to the media, and the media really did an excellent job of keeping people informed.
This new digital transition, hopefully everybody's able to get a hold of the media.
Yeah.
That may turn out to be a problem this time around. People's politics, what do the people have to say?
Hi, you'll be happy to know that I can now hear your show on my cable television.
Well, can I get you to turn your TV down, please? Thank you.
I'll mute it.
Okay.
I have a question for the mayoral candidate.
Okay.
And as mayor of the city of Houston, seeing how we have such a large and healthy medical industry here, we're hearing President Obama and his new changes for the healthcare industry and policies, and now the media is perpetuating that the American Medical Association, as a special interest group, has lobbied heavily against any public options or any kind of universal health care that may help those who are uninsured. As mayor of Houston, what would be your position, seeing how your constituency, a lot of your constituency is in the healthcare field, and but they may be lobbying against having a public option. Where do you stand on having a public option as a mayoral candidate for such a large healthcare city?
Thank you, caller.
We have a crisis in healthcare coverage. There are too many Houstonians who have no healthcare options, and what tends to happen if you use the public healthcare system, you wait, you don't get preventive health services, and then you end up in an emergency room, and it costs us more money. Anything that we can do to get people on the preventive side of healthcare rather than the disease treatment side of healthcare would be a good thing. So I would be very interested in seeing, and I don't know the details of what the president's talking about, but very interested in seeing more emphasis placed on prevention. Now, the city, from a city standpoint, we are aggressively trying to expand our system of federally qualified health clinics, which are where you draw down federal dollars. We only have 7 of these health clinics that are available to the public. Other big cities have literally dozens of them. There's federal money available. We want more options, free choice options for folks who don't have private insurance to go. And we can talk all we want about what the president's planning, but none of us believes it's going to happen overnight. So we have to continue to do what we can to provide services to the people right now who are desperate and who need them. And so through our coordination of our care with the county, with the those in the hospital district, the medical center, and expanding our network of public clinics, we're going to try to do that.
I want to ask a question before we take this next call. As mayor, will you continue the so-called sanctuary policy of Houston?
I will continue the policy of having a very pragmatic approach to policing. It is not a good use of a police officer's time to stop people and inquire as to their immigration status. We want our police officers responding to crimes in progress. We want our police officers, a very much understaffed police department, addressing violent crimes on individuals, property crimes. The other side of that coin, though, is a public safety issue. We want all children in the Houston area to come in for immunization. We want everyone in the Houston area, if they see a crime in progress, if they're aware of, we have a problem here with human trafficking. We have a problem, huge problems with guns flowing south and drugs flowing here. If you're aware of those situations, if you have information that can stop a crime, we want you to come forward and not fear that you're going to be instantly deported. Now, if you end up in one of our jails, however, all bets are off. You should fully expect us to cooperate with ICE, your immigration status to be checked, and if you are here illegally, you will be deported.
And something about 30% of current inmates in Harris County is alleged to be undocumented. So,
I don't know about that statistic, but Harris County has their own program. But for those who are arrested by Houston police officers, go to the city jail. That's going to be the policy.
All right. So let's take this next call. People's Politics. What do the people have to say?
Good evening, panel. How are you?
We're doing fine. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Hey, I want to congratulate you guys first off on receiving your award. I watch you every Monday, and I try to at least make a call every Monday.
Well, thank you.
I really appreciate what you guys are doing, not only for yourselves, but for the city of Houston.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
No problem. And my question is to Ms. Parker there. And my question is, you have the Katy managed lanes that extend from Katy, I'm not sure how far into downtown or past downtown. And you also have the light rail, which starts from downtown and goes to the medical center, Astrodome area, what have you. But, in a city that is as big as Houston and we're expanding outward more and more into Harris County, I was wondering about the traffic issue and wondering why the Katy managed lanes and the light rail only deal with certain areas of town when the traffic affects all of us, especially morning rush hour, the lunch hour, and the evening. And I was just wondering if you had any ideas that you might be trying to implement to try to solve the congestion on the freeways. I have lived in Los Angeles, California, where the 405 is just as crazy as 290 or 45 or 59
combined,
morning or the evening. And I was just wondering, at some point in time, is there any ideas that might be in the work, or what ideas that you might have where we can kind of get some of the traffic more under control? Because we all know, job or no job, when you're out at these times of the day, traffic is a headache, and you never know what you're going to be dealing with, except that there's going to be congestion. And just trying to get your little ideas about what you might be able to bring to the table as far as congestion and heavy traffic flow in the city of Houston. I appreciate it.
Thank you, caller.
I'm absolutely committed to a fully built out, functioning light rail system for the city of Houston. But we need an integrated multimodal transit system, and it starts with a good bus system. Now, as to the question about the Katy freeway, the freeway systems are controlled by the state of Texas. Our job is to take the handoff from the freeway and move people on the city streets once they get onto them. And as a council member, I voted for the expansion of light rail. We are 20 to 25 years behind most of the other cities in America in having a light rail system. And part of the problem is when you elect a mayor, you're also electing someone with a strong position on rail. We elected Bob Lanier, we killed rail for 6 years. We elected Lee Brown, he put rail back on track, literally, in the 6 years he was there. We've kind of drifted a little bit over the last 6 years, but we're moving in the right direction. At the first of the year, we will launch into at least 4, maybe 5 new light rail lines simultaneously. My concern as we do this, though, is that we don't want to cannibalize the bus system in order to feed the light rail system. Light rail is great for people who have options. I ride light rail, it's fun, we encourage people to ride light rail, but if you need to get across town to your job, or actually we can get someone across town on light rail, but we can't get them from one side of the neighborhood to the other to get to a job because if they have to ride a bus. And Metro has been increasingly cutting down on bus routes, ramping back in order to put more money into the light rail system. That doesn't work. We need light rail, we need heavy rail, we need, or rather commuter rail, we need contraflow lanes, we even need bike lanes. All of it has to work together. And we need to understand that it's a system that feeds into itself.
Okay. Well, you mentioned a couple of mayors right there, so I'm interested. What's the honest grade that you would give the current Mayor White on the job that he's done, and what would you maybe do differently after you become mayor?
I think he's probably an A-.
An A-?
B+, A-, yeah.
And what would you do differently from him so that you
It's
get
a
an A+?
completely different. You know, it's almost impossible because I'm a tough grader, and I'm toughest on myself. But there's a very different circumstance. Mayor White came in a booming economy. He did an excellent job of paring back some of the city's expenses, finding efficiencies, putting us on a more professional track. But right now, we're looking at revenues that are declining, understaffing in the police force, underfunding in our pension system.